Hey folks, this is BestInSlot and welcome back to our Jurassic World Evolution 2 Mods of the Week Spotlight series. Although it's really Mods of the Month these days, and we are kicking things off with an exceptional new mod from MasterDoot commissioned by P1L0. This is the Indotaurus, a cosmetic variant for the Indominus Rex. And this thing is from Jurassic World Alive. It's a hybrid between the Indominus Rex and the Carcharodontosaur. Announced in Jurassic World Alive as a super hybrid, and its name, of course, combining the two means the Untameable Bull, or the Indomitable Bull, or whatever you want to call it. And this is pretty supreme work by MasterDoot, as you would expect. It's not my favourite of the hybrids, because it does feel like an Indominus Rex with some bigger horns. It doesn't feel like the most inventive of them. I think the body shape is largely Indominus Rex. It's lacking that kind of stoutness, bullness that the Carcharodontosaurus has. It feels very much more Indominus Rex. But you know what? That's not a criticism of MasterDoot's work in the slightest, because this is exactly what the creature looks like. This is a very, very, very accurate representation of what the Indotaurus looks like in Jurassic World Alive. Those colours are absolutely stunning as well. I can't remember the actual thing being quite so colourful. And I will say, as part of that sort of toughened up bull aspect, we do have these thick scales there, these thick osteoderms all the way along the back. And I think the spines have been sort of thickened up and toughened up as well. It definitely feels a little bit more armoured, a little bit more protected than the default Indominus Rex does. But really fantastically well modelled. Love that contrast between the orange and the blue there along the neck, and that tiger striping coming in, which could be a little bit of a contour sort of nod as well. And look at the modelling on the head. Absolutely impeccable work. How do you feel, Indotaurus? Oh wait, we can do something. Let me just try this. I've never done this with a modded species. We can do a little experiment. There we go. We are now in control of Indotaurus, which is pretty sweet. I'm never going to get over this mod. It's really, really good stuff. I'll never get over that animation. It doesn't matter how many different animals I see it on. That animation, when the second dinosaur comes bounding happily out of the hatchery, it makes me happy every single time. Here we have another MasterDoot mod. This is Nemegtosaurus, commissioned by William Smart 23. This beautiful medium-sized sauropod, a late Cretaceous sauropod from Mongolia. Now, Nemegtosaurus is known only... Oh, off I go again. Now, Nemegtosaurus is only known from a skull. It's only known from a single skull specimen. And for a long time, Nemegtosaurus was rendered as a diplodocoid. So for a long time, Nemegtosaurus was placed in that group. Now, fairly recently, Nemegtosaurus made the transition over to Titanosaur. Good for them. So these are pretty medium-sized, as sauropods go, but 20 tons and 40 feet long. Nemegtosaurus, however, could be a synonym for, and why have they called it this? Give me a minute here. Opisthocoelicordia. Horrible. A sauropod from the exact same fossil bed in Mongolia. Now, both were separate initially, completely. So, Nemegtosaurus was a diplodocoid, and Opistho, which is how I'm going to pronounce it now, was rendered as a chimaerosaurid. However, both have since been reclassified fairly recently as titanosaurs, so that raises the possibility now that they are one and the same. Anyway, really cool to have another medium-sized sauropod. It's not something we get very much of. I love that little extra coloration we've got. You know, you can see the variety in coloration just between these three going on here. And of course, the most prominent feature are these large jutting out bone spikes there towards the hip and the base of the tail there. But we've got little details here along the neck as well. You can kind of see some sort of spotting here, some sort of raised areas that start to get bigger and bigger. These nodules of bone that grow until they burst out down there. If you have, is it trypophobia it's called? This is probably messing you up, actually. That's quite rough. But yeah, the skull shape, very accurate to what we think it would have looked like. You know, we have a pretty good skull for Nemegtosaurus, so that's pretty fantastic. I really like this one in the distance. That really strong, sharp black coloration on the stripes makes it very, very striking looking. Next up, we have Stegoceras from Glitch and Trippy. If we shift over, you can see the different patterns. It kind of blends in a little bit more appropriately. It's just that white one in particular looks a little bit wild, I think, but a very cool looking dinosaur. So, Stegoceras, a pachycephalosaurid, a very small pachycephalosaurid, as you can see, from late Cretaceous North America. Pachycephalosaurid from late Cretaceous North America, and relatively small, as I say, at up to 40 kilograms. It's 6 to 8 feet long, but very, very light. Now, Stegoceras was initially described from multiple specimens. 2 partial skull domes. You know, Stegoceras has this very notable hard-headed, flat sort of dome going on. And initially we found 2 of those domes. And this has led me to many new words. So the first one is a syntype. So we've talked about holotypes many times before in these videos, and a holotype is the example of an organism that's used when it's formally described. A syntype, however, is when multiple different specimens are used in the initial description. So Stegoceras, the initial description was based on 2 separate skull domes, basically partial skull domes. Assumably because they thought they just didn't have enough material from one of them and it made sense to utilize both. However, so whilst it was initially a syntype, it's now what's called a lectotype. Now, a lectotype is a singular specimen that post-initial description is eventually used to describe a species that was originally a syntype. Are you with me? So you can either start as a holotype or a syntype. If you're described from 1 specimen, you're a holotype. If you're described from 2 specimens, you're a syntype. If you're a syntype and you later have your description changed to be only based on 1 specimen, you don't become a holotype, you become a lectotype, because that's happened post initial description. Anyways, a really cool mod here from Glitch with some help from Trippy as well. Stegoceras puts life really nicely. Very, very cute, as you would expect. That skull dome in particular has been rendered really well. And the burst of colour sometimes looks a little funky, as we've seen. Sometimes looks pretty cool. Just a nice burst of colour. Like, the rest of the dinos is pretty chill, although I love seeing all these little nodules as well rendered. Especially above the eyes, where we know Stegoceras would have had these bony extrusions happening. And the way it blends into the back of the skull there with all those little nodules. Again, trypophobia is probably messing you up right now. But yeah, really, really nicely detailed on the skull, as you can see. And then these lovely bursts of colour if you just want a bit of variation in your dinosaur patterning. But comes onto the rig really well, blends right into the game. You can go absolutely wild with the colours. You know, this is one of the ones with the colour core mod stuff working. So it's got a huge variety in pattern and skin tone as well. Highly recommended. Another mod from Trippy here that's going to become a theme very quickly, as you'll see. This is Carcharodontosaurus. And you might be thinking to yourself, but BestInSlot. Wait, no, that's not how you sound. But BestInSlot. I've never heard of Carcharodontosaurus. That's what you're all saying right now. I know, in that voice, hopefully. Well, that's because it's fictional. This is a fictional carcharodontosaurid from the early Cretaceous of Greece. And I'm just going to read out the description because I can't really Google this one, can I? It is known as the first dinosaur to have been found in Greece, which is sad for Greece, really. Carcharodontosaurus possessed a set of tough scales and durable bones to protect it from long falls from mountainous areas. Other notable features were its slim build, as you can see, allowing for agile movements and hunting fast prey within alpine and taiga environments. Its claws and teeth are pointed inward, so that whatever it gets a grip of has little chance of escape, and you can see that is the case. Oh, this goddamn rotation. The teeth all pointed. I hate you, camera. All pointed backwards. So, you know, as soon as you dig those teeth in, if something tries to pull back, it's just gonna, well, it's just gonna dig itself in a little deeper, really. But yeah, really, I mean, I love seeing people come up with fictional dinosaurs. It's very cool. You can just go wild and design exactly what you want to design. This is fairly chill, but I think it's really beautifully designed. I really do. The skull shape is really nice. That very subtle sort of carcharodontid kind of cresting there. That dual crest in the middle, as you can see. The slim, long skull shape we would again expect. It's quite small as well, you know, for a lot of the carcharodontosaurids we have in the game. We do have some smaller ones, but this is down there as well. The coloration on this one is particularly beautiful. The variation here in the crimsons and the reds and the browns. Crimsons and reds, you know what I mean. The deep reds and the bright reds and the crimsony reds and the bloody reds and the blacky reds and the whitey reds and all that kind of jazz. All the variety of reds going on. And then that sort of seeps down into sort of the brown underbelly there at the back, and this really interesting sort of splayed lightning pattern going on. Really, really stunning coloration. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful work. Now we've seen 4 very cool terrestrial dinosaurs, but it is time to head into the waters, into the oceans. It's time to get moist. We've got some aquatics to check out. And our next creature is Veloxcrystalis, again by Trippy and inspired this time by design from GojiGuy. And this is yet again a fictional species, our third fictional, I guess genera, actually genus technically, but our third fictional animal of today. So again, I'm just going to read out the description. Veloxcrystalis is a medium-sized marine hybrid consisting of Tylosaurus, which you can kind of see there, I think, in the body shape, orca, beluga, barracuda, saltwater crocodile, and glassfish. This creates a powerful, hyper-intelligent beast with a bite that can shred apart its prey and pretty insane maximum travel speeds of up to 45 miles an hour. It's really cool. I don't know how I feel about the original design. It doesn't scream hybrid, really. It just screams pretty cool, dolphin-shaped Tylosaur sort of shebang, you know, slightly more mammalian looking Tylosaur. You can see in the snout in particular that's very dolphin-esque. The sort of bulk of the body as well, and the thickness and the sort of almost blubber look that it has as well. Again, it feels more like from a dolphin, like an orca. But then a lot of the tail there, and particularly at the back, says more Tylosaurus and stuff like that. I don't really see like the barracuda and stuff like that, but of course a lot of that stuff could be inbuilt. It could be facets that the animal has. It doesn't have to necessarily be part of the physical design when designing a hybrid. And in fact, I tend to like hybrids that integrate everything in more intelligent ways than just gluing bits of different creatures to themselves. But as you can see, lots of variation in coloration and patterning and all that lovely stuff that we like so much. This one's my favorite, I think, with that bright yellow kind of bursting through the grey and the white there. Looks pretty beautiful. It's very cute as well. They've kind of posited it as this ferocious hybrid, but I think it looks adorable. Yeah, really cool looking creature. I don't know much about the original hybrid. I haven't seen GojiGuy's video, but definitely go check that out as well. Learn all about Veloxcrystalis. So tiny. So also by Trippy, this is really, Trippy's really up their game. That is a beautifully rendered animal right there. I'm just gonna, I mean, it's so small though, I can't zoom in. Look at that thing, what a beaut. This is Saurichthys by Trippy, and Saurichthys is a predatory ray-finned fish from the Triassic epoch. The word epoch, it says period online and stuff. I'm just saying epoch is a much cooler word, generally speaking. Now, strangely, for such a animal, this thing has a gigantic number of different species. Oh, hello. Yeah, it's quite small, as you can see. A gigantic number of different species. There's over 50. Also, the name doesn't work for some reason. There's over 50 species of this thing out there, and that's not including. There's quite a lot of them that got sort of deduced to be, you know, they're dubious to say the least. They're based on very small material. There are, in fact, tooth taxons. So a lot of them are dubious and not currently accepted as a scientific fact. So in reality, there could be even more, but there's like 50 or so certified species for this thing, which is pretty crazy. Now, early examples of Saurichthys, this ray-finned predatory fish, had elongated, I'm curious which this one is, you can't really see from here because I can't see its skull. This is a beautiful design, this one, like these bones kind of dropping down this very typical fish pattern here, which again has been rendered really nicely. They had like a, here behind the eye, as part of the skull. Originally this was really elongated in early examples of Saurichthys, and they were also covered in a lot of scales, loads of scales all over the body. I was to say that was in the early Triassic for Saurichthys. However, later into the Triassic, both these facets, the length of this bone here and the scale coverage, were heavily reduced. Now this only, however, took place in the marine species. As I say, there were many species of this thing. Some lived in freshwater, some lived in seawater. And the seawater ones had those facets reduced. They changed over time. However, the freshwater ones, they actually didn't changed. They kept the longer bone and they kept that mass coverage of scales. So this suggests that the freshwater environments were what's called a refugia. I think it's probably refugia, which is again another new word for me, and it suggests these were refugia for these species. And it is basically a refuge. It's a location that supports an isolated population of a species. Anyway, it's really beautifully done here by Trip. Really, really nicely done. Love this pattern work again. Very classic fish. Look, those little jutting out scales are a little bit sharp bits down there towards the tail. At the back, we've got the little weird fins that we often see. Pointy nose, even got the little sharp teeth in there as well. I should say this is a predatory fish after all. Needs some sharp teeth to chow down and eat some people, and those big eyes making it a more capable hunter. Just very well thought out, very well designed, rigged, and painted. And finally, yet another trippy mod, of course, and quite a strange one. This is the Colossus. Now, that's not a species name, that is just a vague description, because we do not have a species name for this one. Also, how would I have made this video if Trip doesn't exist? This is a beautiful looking creature. Oh, buddy. So, the Colossus. Now, weird one, as I say, back in the 1800s, a bunch of bones were discovered at Orst Cliff in Gloucestershire here in the UK. Super excited, by the way, to see how many people attempt to pronounce the word Gloucestershire. Because if you're not from here and you've not heard someone say it, I think your chances are slim. Now, some of those bones were ascribed to other species, including Stegoceras and stuff like that. And some of them were sort of lost and destroyed in time. However, recent efforts have sort of recategorized some of those bones and deduced that they may be part of the mandible of an absolutely gigantic ichthyosaur, a colossal ichthyosaur. So gigantic, it could potentially be the largest animal to ever exist on the planet. Now, it is still in the process of being described, so we don't know anything for sure quite yet, and we never really do. And in my experience, size estimates usually start huge and get brought down over time. But you never know. They've said if they scaled up from this the way that they did for, say, Shonisaurus, then this thing would be potentially, certainly the largest ichthyosaur, potentially the largest creature ever, you know, in all of recorded time and history and prehistoricness. So very, very cool. It's rendered here as a big as ichthyosaur. Really long snout there, big, thick, long snout. Really nice patterning. It feels quite distinct from the Shonisaurus, which I like. The Shonisaurus is a bit of a chunk. This is huge, but a lot slimmer, a lot more nimble looking there, very sharp on the long rear tail there. The fin at the back. Feels like it would have been a very powerful hunter if it had to be. You know, nothing's really going to bother this thing. Really nicely patterned there as well. Very subtle sort of counter shading going on, as you would typically see in most marine creatures. And of course, as with the others, this comes in a variety of different colours and patterns and stuff like that as well. It's just a really cool piece of history. You know, for now, this is what it is, but this is the largest creature in Jurassic World Evolution 2, other than the bloop. The bloop is still bigger, but this is the second largest creature in Jurassic World Evolution 2, and we don't know if it exists yet or not technically, or how big it really could be, but we could be seeing science and future species kind of come to life before they're even recognized right here on our screens, which is pretty cool. So big shout out to Trip, because the last 5 mods were all made by Trippy, and don't know what I would have done without them for today's video. So very much appreciate that. They've done some brilliant work. I've really appreciated seeing Trip get better and better with time. You know, their mods are some of the best out there now in like the entire community, which is really cool to see. So 7 fantastic new species. Nothing else to show you today in terms of like weird stuff, just those new species, but some very cool new species, and 3 of them were fictional. Such a rare thing, and happened 3 times. Let me know which was your favorite of the bunch. They will all be available download in the document as per usual. Download them, give the mod makers some love, all that good stuff, all very much deserved. I will see you lovely folks very, very soon. Even if you're not a lovely folks, I'll probably still see you relatively soon. Throw me a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more Jurassic World Evolution 2, and hopefully soon Jurassic World Evolution 3. We pray in a couple of weeks' time we'll get an announcement. And yeah, we'll be doing a little bit more with the dinosaur control mod later this week, hopefully, so come back for that. Thank you for joining me. Cheers much as always. Bye-bye.